Massimo Vignelli, born January 10, 1931, was an Italian designer who worked in a number of areas including packaging, houseware, furniture, public signage, and showroom design. He was the co-founder of Vignelli Associates with his wife, Lella. His motto was, "If you can design one thing, you can design everything," which the broad range of his work reflects. Vignelli worked firmly within the modernist tradition. His style stressed simplicity by using basic geometric shapes. Life. Massimo Vignelli was born in Milan in 1931. He studied architecture at the Politecnico di Milano and later at the Università Nuova di Venezia. At the age of 16, he joined the Castiglione brothers firm, which designed in a wide variety of areas, to work as a draftsman. From 1957 to 1960, he visited America on a fellowship and returned to New York in 1966 to co-found the New York branch of a new company, Unimark International, which quickly became, in scope and personnel, one of the largest design firms in the world. The firm went on to design many of the world's most recognizable corporate identities, including that of American Airlines, which forced him to incorporate the eagle, Massimo was always quick to point out. Vignelli designed the iconic signage for the New York City subway system during this period and the 1970s to 1980s map of the system. Contrary to news reports, Vignelli did not design the Washington Metro map, which was designed by Lance Wyman and Bill Cannon. Vignelli created the signage and wayfinding system for the DC Metro and suggested it be named Metro, like many other capital city subways. Its original name was a mishmash of various states and transportation groups. In 1971, Vignelli resigned from Unimark, in part because the design vision, which he supported, became diluted as the company diversified and increasingly stressed marketing rather than design. Soon after, Massimo and Lella Vignelli founded Vignelli Associates. By 1977, Unimark filed for bankruptcy. Vignelli worked with filmmaker Gary Husvitt on the documentary Helvetica about the typeface of the same name. Vignelli also updated his 1972 New York City subway map for an online-only version implemented in 2011 and described it as a diagram, not a map, to reflect its abstract design without service-level features such as streets and parks. The Vignellis equipped their home with tables, chairs, lamps, and other items that they designed. Work. Vignelli worked in a wide variety of areas including interior design, environmental design, package design, graphic design, furniture design, and product design. His clients at Vignelli Associates included companies such as IBM, Knoll, Bloomingdale's, and American Airlines. His former employee, Michael Beirut, wrote that, "It seemed to me that the whole city of New York was a permanent Vignelli exhibition," around 1981. To get to the office, I rode in a subway with Vignelli-designed signage, shared the sidewalk with people holding Vignelli-designed Bloomingdale's shopping bags, walked by St. Peter's Church with its Vignelli-designed pipe organ visible through the window. At Vignelli Associates, at 23 years old, I felt I was at the center of the universe. Vignelli participated in the Stock Exchange of Visions project in 2007, as well as publishing the book Vignelli, From A to Z, containing a series of essays describing the principles and concepts behind all good design. It is alphabetically organized by topic, roughly approximating a similar course he taught at Harvard School of Design and Architecture. Vignelli's designs were famous for following a minimal aesthetic and a narrow range of typefaces that Vignelli considered to be perfect in their genre, including Accidens Grotesque, the predecessor to Helvetica, Bodoni, Helvetica itself, Garamond No. 3, and Century Expanded. He wrote in 1991 on a poster for a typeface exhibition showcasing these basic ones that, in the new computer age, the proliferation of typefaces and type manipulations represents a new level of visual pollution threatening our culture. Out of thousands of typefaces, all we need are a few basic ones and trash the rest. In January 2009, Vignelli released the Vignelli Canon as a free ebook. An expanded version was printed in September 2010. In the introduction, Vignelli writes, "I thought that it might be useful to pass some of my professional knowledge around with the hope of improving young designer skills. Creativity needs the support of knowledge to be able to perform at its best." Vignelli worked with the National Park Service and the design staff at the Harper's Ferry Center in creation of the Unigrid system. The The system has been used since 1977 in creation of park brochures in all national park locations. The New York City subway map. In August of 1972, Vignelli's design for the New York City subway map appeared on the walls of subway stations and became a landmark in modernist information design. Vignelli regarded the map as one of his finest creations. Origin of the map. The origins of the map lie in problems of the previous decade. In the mid-1960s, New York City Transit Authority was facing unprecedented difficulties in delivering information to its riders, including inconsistent and out-of-date signage, still referred to the old operating systems, IRT, BMT, IND, long after they had been subsumed under a single public authority. An influx of 52 million visitors for the 1964 New York's World Fair, April 1964 to October 1965, highlighting shortcomings in wayfinding information for public transportation in New York City. Structural changes to the subway network, costing $100 million to reduce bottlenecks. In particular, the Christie Street connection, approved in 1963, expected in 1965, and opened at the end of 1967, effectively merged two of the three historical networks. To deal with this, the TA created the role of Director of Public Information and Community Relations and hired former newspaper reporter Len Ingalls. In his later years, Vignelli often said that the most important factor in the success of a design project was having a good client, and he praised Ingalls for being a very good one. Ingalls began an overhaul of both signage and the subway map. When Unimark International opened an office in New York City in 1965, Mildred Constantine, curator of design at the Museum of Modern Art, MoMA, put Ingalls in touch with Vignelli, who headed up the New York office from the end of 1965. In the spring of 1966, the TA engaged Unimark to redesign the subway signage and review the ongoing changes to the map. Robert Norda and Massimo Vignelli created a system of signage that the TA adopted and which still pervades every station in the subway today. But the TA did not follow up Vignelli's preliminary study of the map, as they were already at the testing stage of their own new map, the 1970s Vignelli map. The TA's new map, released in 1967, used Raleigh Diodamo's principle of color coding for the first time, but it suffered from what Vignelli called fragmentation and was not well received. The following year, the parent body, Metropolitan Transport Authority, was formed over the TA, chaired by Dr. William J. Ronan, who wanted to create a modern brand image for this new body. While Unimark's signage project was still being finished off up with the creation of the New York City Transit Authority Graphic Standards Manual, Vignelli went to Ronan with a mock-up of the map for Lower Manhattan. Ronan approved it, and in July of 1970, the TA awarded Unimark a contract to design the new subway system map. The map was put together in the Unimark office by Joan Charison under Vignelli's design direction. In April of 1971, Vignelli left Unimark to set up Vignelli Associates. By this time, the map was almost complete, but was subject to connections and modifications requested by Raleigh Diodamo, who was now the head of Office of Inspection and Review at the MTA. These changes were carried out by Charison, who also oversaw the printing of the map. Unimark's liaison with the MTA during this project was handled by Norbert Oehler. The map was unveiled by Ronan on August 4th of 1972 at a ceremony in the station at 57th Street and 6th Avenue. After the mechanical for the map was handed over in 1972, Vignelli had no further control over the map. 6 further editions were produced from 1973 to 1978 with extensive changes. In 1974, William Ronan was replaced by David Unick as chairman of the MTA. Unick was formerly an executive at Macy's department store and brought an explicit intention to sell the subway to riders. He recruited Fred Wilkinson from Macy's, who formed the Subway Map Committee in 1975 to design a new map to replace Vignelli's. The next year, John Taranack was made chair of the committee, which concluded in June of 1979 with a geographic map using a trunk-based color scheme designed by Michael Hertz Associates. The Vignelli map was replaced by a newer design, which is still used. The 2000s Vignelli map. At the end of 2007, Mark Razzo, an editor at Men's Vogue magazine, invited Vignelli to submit a commemorative edition of his map for inclusion in a Design Classics edition of the magazine. This invitation precipitated the thinking of the team at Vignelli Associates, who had for some time been considering what they would do differently to the map. Massimo Vignelli, Yoshiki Waterhouse, and Beatriz Cifuentes worked together to set up a new, up-to-date map from scratch. Besides the general principle of a systematic and minimalist design, they added the specific requirement that the map should preserve spatial relations between stations. For example, if one station is east of another station in real life, then it must be so on the map. This diffused one of the most persistent criticisms of the 1972 map. Their wholly new map was released through May of 2008 edition of Men's Vogue. Within hours, all 500 signed prints were sold for charity at US $2.99 each. In 2011, the MTA began to look at ways of displaying service disruptions due to weekend engineering works in a visual format. They invited Vignelli to develop a digital signage version of the 2008 map. This was released on the MTA's Weekender website on September 16th of 2011. Since then, it has undergone several revisions and is still in use today, with weekly updates of service changes. Super Bowl map. The last map in which Vignelli was involved was a special transit map designed by Yoshiki Waterhouse at Vignelli Associates for the Super Bowl XLV III. The game was played on February 2nd, 2014 at MetLife Stadium at the Meadowlands Sports Complex in East Rutherford, New Jersey, at the first Super Bowl played outdoors in a cold weather city. Private cars were not allowed to park at the stadium, so the use of public transportation was correspondingly increased. With 400,000 visitors expected to the area and 80,000 attendees expected at the game itself, the MTA decided to work with the New Jersey Transit, Amtrak, and New York Waterway to produce a special purpose regional transit map. The map brought in several innovations. The transit map showed both New York and New Jersey. It was the first time that the MTA produced a subway map that had done that. Besides showing the New York City subway map, the map also includes the MTA's Metro North Railroad and Long Island Railroad, New Jersey Transit lines, and Amtrak lines, all in one consistent visual language of the Vignelli map. For the first time since 1979, the MTA issued a Vignelli map on paper. For the first time, a Vignelli map added in topographic features: the MetLife Stadium, the Prudential Center, and the Super Bowl Boulevard. Super Warm Red. The Vignelli discipline of map making is continued by Waterhouse and Cifuentes through the new design firm Super Warm Red Designs, formed in December of 2014. Prints of the 2012 edition of the subway map used in the MTA Weekender site can be obtained through Super Warm Red. Vignelli Center for Design Studies. In 2008, Lella and Massimo agreed to donate the entire archive of their design work to Rochester Institute of Technology. The archive is housed in a new building designed by Lella and Massimo Vignelli, the Vignelli Center for Design Studies. The building, which opened in September of 2010, includes among its many offerings exhibition spaces, classrooms, and offices. Massimo Vignelli said of it, "The Vignelli Center for Design Studies will house our comprehensive archive of graphic design, furniture, and objects under the direction of R. Roger Remington, the Vignelli Distinguished Professor of Design at RIT. The center will foster studies related to modernist design with programs and exhibitions on our work, as well as other related subjects. The first one of its kind in size, the Vignelli Center will position RIT on the international forefront of design studies. Lella and I are excited to see our dream taking shape." This has been Designwiki. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this video, it'd mean a lot if you'd leave a like. And if you're interested in more like it in the future, it'd be awesome if you subscribe. Okay, catch you in the next one.